Hey, Larken Rose here. I wanted to start by thanking everyone so much who donated in the last few days after my somewhat pathetic begathon. I hate doing that with a passion. And I hugely appreciate all the support, which lets me get back to focusing on the things that I think I should be doing, the things that I think are actually, like, of way more value to the world in general. Um, this people who have seen the Jones Plantation realize that it's not about race at all. I hope anybody who's seen the whole movie can figure that out. Now, the fact that it takes place in antebellum South United States, it's easy for a lot of people to assume that it's mostly going to be about race, and of course that plays a part because we tried to make it fairly realistic, the plot going on. But at the end of the day, it was about how you enslave people mentally as opposed to just old school enslaving them through brute violence, because the mental version is way scarier. It's way more of a threat to humanity, especially now that most people in the world recognize slavery as utterly evil and despicable and heinous and intolerable and all that stuff. But if you can do it in a way that people don't think of it as slavery, if the slaves are a lot more prosperous and comfortable, and they're still getting robbed of the fruits of their labor, and they're not noticing, or it's pitched to them in a different way, that sort of slavery empowers basically the worst people in the world in a way that most of the victims don't even really get what's going on, and they don't recognize what's going on, and most of the time they're voting for it, and they don't see the problem. So both the movie and the book are about they're telling a story, but it's also a lesson in how people are mentally enslaved, and this has been true forever. Incidentally, this was also true even during like open chattel slavery, because even in raising people as livestock, they still used a number of these psychological things to, as if they're training any other animal, to train their human property to be obedient and complacent and loyal and all that. Just the most despicable thing you could possibly do is basically train a person to not be a person, but to be just a robot for you to control, for your benefit, and their own individuality and self-ownership just doesn't matter. Like that's just despicable. So I want to describe a scenario. Oh, let me throw out there's actually the website for the novel version of the Jones Plantation is now thejonesplantationbook.com. It moved to a different location. I can explain why. And the people who funded that printing to make it happen run a website called wealthbattle.com. It's like a freedom-oriented site focusing on how people who like freedom can be financially like successful and know how to manage things so they're not doing what most people do and causing a disaster, which I'm not the one to talk about, but they are, because they're actually good at it. So wealthbattle.com is their website, and thejonesplantationbook.com is now where you can find the novel. Of course, the movie is still at jonesplantationfilm.com. So picture this. Now, this would work with any group, with any demographic category, but just for the sake of, making it sort of a common version right now. Imagine that you're a black person living in the United States. Or if you are, you don't have to imagine it. Just imagine the scenario I'm about to say. You have two neighbors. You live on the street. The neighbor on one side is just openly, obnoxiously racist. Some old grouchy white guy who blames everything on those dang collards, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't hide it, is just obnoxious. He either won't say a word to you, or he'll give you dirty looks, or every once in a while he'll make some rude, nasty comment at you. So, total jerk, racist asshole. Not a good neighbor to have. So that's neighbor number one. Now, neighbor number one, the racist asshole, he doesn't like trespass on your property or threat. He's not like burning a cross on your front lawn or threatening you or violently attacking you. He's just a grouchy jerk over there saying grouchy, racist jerk things. And so if you basically just avoid him, like you'll hear him saying obnoxious things at you, but he's not actually like imposing anything negative on your life other than the rudeness and obnoxiousness of being a racist asshole. So that's neighbor number one. Neighbor number two on the other side of you is polite to you and nice and says hi and shakes your hand and is like charismatic and all that. Never says a racist word. We'll make it another white guy. However, every month he breaks into your house and steals a few $100s from you. And you know it, too. Now, he doesn't talk about that. He doesn't mention that. He'll wave to you, hey, neighbor. But every month he steals a few $100s from you. He breaks into your house and steals money from you. Now, if those are your two neighbors, now let's say for some reason you don't have the ability to stop just the thieving neighbor who's all nice to you and polite and stuff, and never says a racist word, but totally robs you. For some reason in this hypothetical, you haven't found a way to stop him from doing that yet. In that scenario, which neighbor would you be more upset by? The guy who's totally an asshole and says mean words and is a jerk, but he doesn't do anything to you. He doesn't take your stuff. He doesn't ruin your property. He doesn't physically attack you or anything. Or would it be the guy whose words and you know the way he comes across to you and communicates with you is like so nice and open, but he steals your shit? Like every month he steals a chunk of your money or he steals some of your stuff. Which of those would you be more upset by? And which of those would you be more concerned about? Because here's the thing. And again, this applies to any groups. I'm just using black and white because, you know, lots of people are focused on that right now in the U.S. If you're a black American, and this is true if you're any color American, but if you're a black American, there are some people who are just racist jerks. And some of them are at least nice enough to be like completely overt about it. They're not even like hiding and being sneaky. They're just right out in the open, complete assholes. Just pack mentality, racist assholes. Okay, and they say things. I'm not talking about somebody who would attack you. Like, that would be really bad. You would have the right to defend yourself. So you have jerks over there. And, you know, you can debate how many there are of those in the country. I think the media wants to pretend that there's way, 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 way more of those people than there actually are. But there are some, at least. So without bothering to argue about the exact number of how many overtly racist jerks there are in the world. Then you have the people who pretend to give a crap about you and steal your shit over and over and over again. They're called politicians. And they come in all colors. White, black, everything else. They come from both parties, Democrat and Republican, and they steal your shit. If you earn a paycheck, part of your paycheck is going to get stolen unless you have a way to do it under the table to avoid their robbery. If you're just working for some company and they're paying you, you'll notice that what they say they were going to pay you isn't what you actually get in the check, because these magic things called employment taxes and income taxes just disappear and they get withheld and they go off to some crooks who never say a racist word. Well, every once in a while they get caught on tape being racist jerks, like behind the scenes when they didn't think anybody was recording. But as far as publicly, they talk about how much they care about the plight of black Americans, and they really want to help out, and they believe in this and they believe in that, and they want to help you, and they understand the challenges you go through, and blah, 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 blah. And they steal your shit every single fucking time you get a paycheck. Every time they steal some of your money. They steal some of what you earned while talking all nice and basically trying to buy your loyalty. Democrats do it, Republicans do it. Now, Democrats more often specifically focus on black Americans to try to buy their loyalty, just because the two sets of parasites have sort of different target audiences for their manipulative bullshit. But both of them absolutely rob you of, like, every time you get a paycheck, if they can find it and get their hands on it, they're going to steal a cut of it every stinking time. So, when you watch the mainstream media, which of those types of people does the media tell you you should focus on and worry about and be angry about and be stressed about and obsess about? Some random white racist somewhere who might be saying mean things. And yeah, he's a total asshole jerk. I'm not saying you should like him or appreciate that. Why would the media want to focus so hard, want you to focus so hard on those people who, for the most part, aren't doing anything to you other than being asshole, like saying asshole words? Like, plenty of people do that in a bunch of different ways. Why do the mainstream media that is so concerned with the plight of Black Americans, why don't they ever object to the fact that you're being robbed? Literally, the fruits of your labor are being taken from you. A portion of them are being taken from you without your consent. Now, when that happened a couple hundred years ago, it was referred to as slavery. If somebody works and somebody else gets to take a chunk of that without the person's permission, it's kind of the definition of slavery. Now, today, the lifestyle, the level of comfort and prosperity of the average American, white or black or whatever else, is obviously a million times more comfortable and less overtly violent and oppressive and evil than somebody who's somebody else's slave, but you're still being robbed. Somebody is still declaring that they have the right to decide not only to take some of your money, but to decide how much of your money they're going to take. They decide the tax rates. You don't. Which means you have a group of people who think that they have the right to decide how much of what you earn they will let you keep. And yet the media never says one word about, hey, maybe they're the people you should actually resent and be upset at. Not the people who say rude words like, okay, yeah, you can think that's obnoxious. But the people literally robbing you, taking your lifeblood by way of stealing what it took your time and effort to earn. And they steal it from you and they say, well, it's the cost of society and it's taxes and everybody has to pay their fair share. They have lots of bullshit they pile on top of it to try to make it sound legitimate and necessary and righteous and all that they just take a chunk of what you produce. Now, if you look how they spend it, those excuses just become ridiculous. Well, you're working your butt off to try to, like, take care of your family or whatever, but we have to take this chunk so we can, like, go pay people to blow up little brown children on the other side of the world. Really? That's necessary for society? The militaristic bullshit that the U.S. empire has been doing for, well before I was born, before any of you were born. That's what you're morally obligated to hand over your money for? No, that's just their lame excuse for why they're going to steal your money and spend it on whatever the hell they want, including things that are hugely destructive to other people or to you. But the fact that you have the lapdog media that basically kisses the butt of the ruling class, and they can bicker back and forth over, like, which party they like better. Like, Fox News wants this set of crooks in power, and CNN wants that set of crooks in power. Both of them want you robbed. Both of them are perfectly okay having a ruling class that steals a chunk of what you produce, what you earn, and just steals it from you. And short of, like, fleeing the country, you don't have a choice in the matter. And never in a million years will the media say, maybe you should be mad at the people robbing you, instead of some random jackass who was alleged to have said some mean word about black people. Like, okay, he's a jerk. Is he a threat to you? Is he really a problem in your life if he's just some asshole you don't even know saying asshole things? Who cares? Maybe the people literally robbing you and stealing your money and then using it for horrible things, should be more of a concern. But the media will never talk as if that's what you should be upset about. They will always talk as if, no, you should be grateful for this all-loving government that you have that's out there to take care of you and to give you free things after stealing a bunch from you. Like, if you had a neighbor that steals a bunch of your stuff and sometimes, like, gives you a sandwich or something, are you going to go, oh, you're so generous and benevolent? You're going to go, no, you keep stealing my stuff and you gave a little bit back. That doesn't make it okay, you psychopath. That's all of politics. That's every government, everywhere, always. And yet the media so much wants every group, and now I'm going to expand it so it isn't just a black and white thing. They want every group resenting every other group. Yeah, they want blacks and whites resenting each other. They want men and women resenting each other. They want rich and poor resenting each other. Now, I do resent rich people who got rich by way of political power, which is coercion. But if somebody, white, black, whatever, got financially successful by way of like running a business and producing goods or services to customers who voluntarily pay for it, good for them. That doesn't hurt me. If you run a business and make something and you make millions of dollars, cool. Good for you. You didn't steal it from me. You produced something that people wanted to buy. Maybe I was one of the people who wanted to buy it. If I go and buy something from you and like, oh, I want this thing that you made more than I want whatever money you're charging for it, why on earth would I resent you for a little bit improving my life by creating something I wanted to buy? You're not my enemy just for being successful, for being rich. The people who got rich by robbing me, which is every single politician always everywhere, and often some of the huge corporations that use government violence to crush competition and to get bailouts and things like that, who are using government power to basically enrich themselves in completely immoral ways, not by selling you things you want, not by having voluntary customers, but by using the force of government to enrich them. They're worth resenting because they got rich by way of fraud and coercion and thuggery and all that, just like everybody in government does. But the fact that government always wants us to be at odds with each other, and is like, and the reason I started with an example of black versus white is because they're pushing the hell out of that right now, because they really, really, really need a huge divide between the population. And it's working to some degree, but thankfully a lot of people on both sides are recognizing, yeah, the guy down the street or the guy over there, he isn't my enemy just because his skin color is different. He's my fellow victim of you political parasites. You're robbing me, you're robbing him. Like, I don't want you to rob me. I don't want you to rob him. I don't even know him, and I don't want you to rob him. And that's why you get the, I can't remember his name. The redhead guy who wrote the little country song, which is, it's Rich Men from Richmond. Or whatever the title actually is. And tons of people relate to that. It's like, yeah, crappy people in D.C. are robbing all of us. And that's what scares the crap out of people in power, is when all of the victims stop falling for the divide and conquer crap and start recognizing, like, we do have a common enemy. There is an us versus them that actually matters. It has nothing to do with race or age or men versus women or rich and poor. It's just us is the people trying to live our lives and voluntarily trading with others and refraining from, attacking and robbing people. And them is the thieves. Now, there are private thieves who break stuff and steal stuff. I'm against them. But even they are a trivial threat to most of us compared to the legalized thieves known as government that just steal massive amounts of wealth from all of us. And they do it by way of income taxes, and they do it by way of sales taxes, and they do it by way of the hidden tax known as inflation, and they do it by fees and excise taxes. You don't even know we're there. You buy gas at the pump, and you think you just paid for gas. No, you paid for this much for gas, and you paid a nice big chunk to give money to the feds and the state and in the form of excise taxes on gas. Well, there's that on all sorts of things. There are excise taxes on all sorts of things that they don't even want you to know. Like, you can look it up, by the way. Like, what are their excise taxes on? How much am I actually paying for the thing I want? And how much is government making me give them a cut? Not because they did anything, not because they helped produce it, but just because they function like the mafia and rob us all. So here comes my the final step of what I'm going to explain today, which it's pretty extreme. I'll turn it around. Let's say there's down the street is some black person who hates white people, thinks white people are the problem, and yeah, there are some of them too. They're absolutely black racists, just like there are white racists who hate entire categories of people, which is really stupid. Like, I believe in judging a person not by the color of his skin, but by the content of his character. Maybe you've heard that saying. Martin Luther King Jr., which there's plenty of things he said that I disagree with because they're collectivist. But on that, absolutely right. Judge the individual by who he is and what he does, not by whatever category he fits in. So I'm going to, like, I don't want to be blamed for anything any white guy ever did, which is lots of bad shit. And I'm not going to blame some black person for things that other black people ever did somewhere. Why the hell would I do that? That's groupthink. That's pack mentality. That's ridiculous. And that's what racism actually is. Blaming a huge category of people because of what some individuals did, or what you imagine they might do, or, you know, any other ridiculous thing. So here's the thing. If I have some, you know, down the street, there's some black guy who just hates white people. White people are the problem, blah, 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 blah. And it's not that hard to find those people. There are some people who do that. Here's the thing. I still have more in common with him than I do with people in government if he's not advocating that I be robbed. He can say I'm the devil and blah, 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 and the white devil and blah, blah. By the way, I knew somebody in federal prison who talked about the white devil. The white man is the devil ruining everything. It's like, is that me too? just kind of curious. The funny thing is, I chatted with him a few times and we had like interesting talks, and I never got around to saying, do I get an exemption from white devil status, or am I just still a devil? It's just, we had fun chats. Had fun chatting with the devil every once in a while. So there are people like that. Now, if somebody hates me for the color of my skin, well, that's stupid. And yet, if he and I are both getting robbed by the ruling class, I would defend him. Because he shouldn't be robbed. Even if he's an asshole. Even if he says words that are rude and stupid and pack mentality, racist idiocy, I still don't want him to be robbed. So my question for you, whatever color you are, and whether you're male, female, rich, poor, whatever you are, wherever you were born, I have this challenge for you. If somebody is willing to leave you alone, but they have beliefs you don't like, they have opinions you find obnoxious and insulting. Racist is one example of that. They have stupid racist opinions. They're not attacking people, like physically. They're not robbing people. They're just pack mentality boneheads who complain about a whole race because they're stupid. Whether they're complaining about white or black or Jews or whatever. They're complaining about a whole category. You think it's obnoxious. So you don't like this person's opinions. He may say rude things that actually apply to you. You don't like his lifestyle. You don't like his beliefs. You don't like his personality. He's just overall a jerk. But he doesn't rob anybody, and he doesn't vote for anybody else to rob you, which is sadly unusual. But he's a total asshole. You have almost nothing in common with him. You have lots of reasons to think he's a jerk and want to avoid him like the plague. My question for you is, do you want that person to be free? I do. The person who hates me and resents me for my skin color or where I was born or what language I speak or for what clothes I wear, I don't care. If somebody is not initiating violence against me, I want that person to be free too. So do you want the racist jerk or whatever obnoxious opinions and attitudes he has about you, if he's willing to live and let live, if he's willing to peacefully coexist with you even while saying rude jerk words, do you want him to be free? It's kind of a hard thing to do, isn't it? I want the biggest jerks in the world to be free as long as they're not initiating or asking somebody else to initiate force against me and other people. Because that's actual tolerance. To tolerate something doesn't mean you like it, doesn't mean you approve of it, doesn't mean they match you. It means to allow to exist. That's all that being tolerant means. I am tolerant of black people who are dumb enough to say that all white people are evil. I'm tolerant of white people who are dumb enough to complain about all black people. If they will be tolerant of others, as in not criticizing, not what they say, and say whatever stupid shit they want. But if they're not advocating violent aggression against others, I can peacefully coexist with them. Now, I'm going to avoid them. I'm going to exercise that awesome tradition of freedom of disassociation. If you're a racist jerk and you're over there, I'm going to be over here. Whether you're a white racist jerk or a black racist jerk or an Asian racist jerk, I don't care. I'll probably avoid you, but I'm not going to condone that you be robbed and subjugated. Because other people should have the freedom to be what I consider to be assholes and have stupid ideas and stupid beliefs and crappy lifestyles and idiotic habits and a whole bunch of things I don't approve of and don't agree with, if they will allow me to do what I want with myself and my body and my property. This is the ultimate test, and it's a hard one for a lot of people. Are you willing to recognize that even people you resent and think are obnoxious assholes, if they will leave you alone, are you willing to defend their freedom as well as your own? It's not easy, especially when government comes to you and says, want me to use power on your behalf to make that guy be what you think he should be, to make him hire who you think he should hire, make him trade with who you think he should trade with, make him only say things you think he should say. That temptation of power works on almost everybody because almost nobody actually believes in freedom as a principle. They want freedom for themselves, but they're perfectly fine with advocating power and domination over people they don't like. Well, that's how you get things like slavery. And that's how you get the ridiculous hypocrisy at the beginning of the U.S., where they're going, rah, 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 all men are created equal. It's like, you're owning people. How the hell can you say that with a straight face when slavery is still there? It's still in place. And it's being enforced by the government that you created by way of this Constitution that you say is about freedom. The hypocrisy of that is just bonkers. And it continued because too many people didn't want freedom as a principle. They wanted freedom for themselves and subjugation of people that were different or that they didn't like or that they thought they could get something out of. So here's the challenge. And most people, if they're honest with themselves, will fail. Will you defend the freedom of people you think are obnoxious and rude and you don't like them, but they leave you alone? If they leave you alone, will you not only leave them alone, but ask government to leave them alone and resist government if it doesn't? There's a saying that's been around for a long time. I forget who the original person was who said it, if there's even a way to find that out. But the thing about, I disagree with your opinion completely, and I will defend to the death your right to express it. I don't think most Americans, I don't think human beings in general, understand why anybody would say that or think that, because they don't understand freedom. And they don't understand what the real threat is to everybody of all colors, all races, all nationalities, all ages, men, women, whatever. The threat is the state. The threat is authoritarianism. And the people who pretend to give a crap about you will do absolutely anything they possibly can to create a division between you and your fellow victims of this frickin' ruling class. They'll divide you by race. They'll divide you by age. They'll divide you men and women, rich and poor, different countries, different languages, different cultures. They will do anything they can to try to trick you and I into being at war with each other so that we're both whining to the ruling class, please use your power to make him be what I want him to be. You know what I want you to be? Free. Can you say the same for me? Can you say the same even for the most obnoxious, rude, unpleasant jerk you can think of, as long as he'll allow you your freedom as well? Because until you can actually say, yes, I will defend even the freedom of people I think are just obnoxious assholes, as long as they keep their assholery to themselves and they're not like physically attacking you or stealing your stuff, until you can all the way accept that that is the righteous position and the only righteous position, to defend the freedom even of people you don't like and you don't agree with and you don't like their opinions, until you're at that point, you will just be a pawn of the worst people in the world, and they will trick you into these stupid divisions that shouldn't even exist, which end up empowering them and harming everybody else of every race and every age and every nationality and every income level and every education level, male and female, everybody everywhere. There's also another very old saying, and this one is from Frederick Douglass, who grew up as a slave, and just an amazing genius. The fact that he mentally escaped what he grew up in. He said, and I quote, "No man can put a chain about the ankle of his fellow man without at last finding the other end fastened about his own neck." You either advocate freedom for everyone, including people you don't like, or in the end, ultimately, you are advocating subjugation and enslavement for everyone, including yourself.